Hi there, Karen Lovely here, and I'm ridiculously excited today because I have one of my most favorite guests of all time on the podcast with me today. And how this happened, because he's already done a podcast, oh my gosh, it was like 2 years ago. And so what was happening, okay, spoiler alert, it is my friend and the most incredible human being on the planet, because he's a retired Navy SEAL, 30 years, being of service to our country as one of the most incredible and amazing, I want to say athletes in a way, but to even graduate as a Navy SEAL is virtually impossible. And so I brought him back today, and sorry it's taken so long, because in my research on brain science, which I do for fun, they use the Navy SEALs as an example, and I was so enthralled with the mental ability of all Navy SEALs and elite performers. But when they got to the pool exercise, I was absolutely in shock, in massive fear, just watching the pool exercises. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got to call Steve and I've got to ask him all these questions to find out what exactly you were thinking and what you had to think and not think to actually pass and graduate as a Navy SEAL. And so that said, I want to welcome Steve Viola to the podcast to say hi, and then I can go over credentials. But yeah, how's it going, Steve?
It's going good, Karen. I'm so happy to be back and talking with you. You're one of my favorite podcasters, so thank you for having me back.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. Okay, so you are 30 years retired Navy SEAL Commander Master Chief. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, I did 30 years. I've been retired since January 17, and Command Master Chief is a very small group. It's like less than 0.01% get to be there. So, you know, Command Master Chief, and then SEAL Master Chief, and then SEAL Command Master Chief. Those are, it just gets, the numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller. It's like 0.001 people get to do that. So I was very fortunate and very blessed to be able to accomplish those tasks. And I didn't do it by myself. I had a lot of help from a lot of people.
Right. Oh my God. Okay. And I love those numbers because we're going to talk numbers. Okay. So let's talk numbers right now. When you went through, you told me there were 108 candidates, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's how many people started the program.
Right. And then through the whole thing, how many graduated with you?
So by the time we got to Hell Week, we were down to about 55, it's 55 guys roughly. And then when we completed Hell Week, we had 36 that finished. And then 4 of them got medically rolled. So we had 32 at the completion of Hell Week, which is, back then it was week 5, week 6 of SEAL training. And then out of the originals, I think there was only 12 originals. And all that really means is that someone had a stumbling block somewhere and they got rolled to the next class. I was one of those guys that got rolled to another class. So I didn't start and finish with my same class, but was given an opportunity to continue the program and readjust and refit and then refocus on my goal, which was to graduate.
Ah, yes. Okay. And another thing, so vitally important, because the attrition rate is so high. In other words, because out of 108, I think like 24 ended up graduating in your class, and that's about the average. Is that correct? Around there, graduates.
Yep, that's correct. You get like 25% of the people will graduate.
Yes.
Altogether.
Okay, and so here's the thing. Now there are more candidates. There are more people trying out, more men. And so that's what, about 140 is the average now, currently?
Yeah, it's 100 to about 180 is the way they go. And a lot larger numbers, obviously due to the publicity of it, and movies and the romance, the romantic looking team guys, and how it's just gotten a lot of attention. publicly. So.
Right. And then, of course, Osama bin Laden and SEAL Team 6 and blah, blah, right? That's all very exciting stuff, yes? Exposure. Yeah. So here's the thing that so blows my mind, and exactly why I do what I do in my own career, my purposeful career. So even though there are now 140, 180 guys, it's still the same attrition rate. In other words, that's not, the graduate number isn't really increasing as much as even the Navy would like. So that's what's so mysterious, and why they're working so hard to understand the brain, to have more candidates pass SEAL training. Yes?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you'd mentioned it earlier on one of our other talks, was the mental performance. And so what we've done is we've gotten guys in fantastic shape, and we've tried to prepare them mentally, but now all you really have is in-shape quitters. You don't have, so those are, they look great, they could be male models anywhere, but they just didn't have the constitution to finish it, the intestinal fortitude, for whatever reason.
Yes. Okay, so that blows my mind, because even though the starting number is higher, the ending number is still the same. That's a lot of data to work with, and, a lot of room for growth, right? And
yeah, well, and to be abundantly clear, the process is undeniably violent and certifiably tough.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that they get beat by instructors. It's the wear and tear. It's the Pacific Ocean. You just don't know what's coming next, and it's just a constant grind. And nowadays, people need to have, they need to have their whey protein, and they need to have this, and you don't get that opportunity. It's go, 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 go. Sleep when you can, eat when you can, and go to the bathroom when you can.
Right.
So some people don't perform well under those conditions. They have to have 8 hours of sleep and have to have a massage and a recovery. You can't have that.
That's me.
In the training.
Yeah. that would never happen. Oh, by the way, just quickly, has any woman ever tried to is that a thing, or is that even possible? Or I never thought of it.
Interestingly enough, they did open up. It was a few years back. I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. They opened it up to the Rangers, Green Berets, and SEALs. Some of the ladies got through the Ranger training. I don't think any of them have gone to the Green Beret school. And then we had, I want to say, there was another lady officer that tried to go through, and she just withdrew from the program just recently, like this year. So yes, women have applied, and some have gotten to day 1, week 1, and or the pre-training rather, but haven't been able to pass all that stuff. And so that was my point earlier about being undeniably violent, certifiably tough. The program has not changed, and that program is being put into the Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. And if you think of a samurai sword that gets hammered on in a hot furnace, hammered, then they get thrust in the cold water, it tempers you. So that's a great demoralizer, but yet a great builder-upper for those that want to be there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
For lack of a better term.
No, absolutely. And, that just goes with the human mind, the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. The very thing that drives us there is the very thing that can either stop or keep us in the game. There's a fine line there. And so I totally understand that. So, okay, now, this is why I love men so much, because what you have to do to make it, and even women step up and they try, and I'm not saying men are better in any way, shape, or form. I also know the basic brain science behind the male-female brain, and because of the way that the female brain is different from the male brain, it does hurt us in terms of becoming Navy SEALs. No question. I absolutely believe that based on brain science. It's not even a woman-man thing. It's a brain thing. Okay?
Yeah.
And the studies, the MRIs they're doing, the brain scans support having more men as Navy SEALs and no women to date. So, and that's true, right? No women to date have ever been a Navy SEAL. So that has something to do with something. Anyway, but that same mental mindset is the very thing that fills our prisons and kills our veterans. male veterans, right? There's a higher suicide rate with veterans and men in general. So the very thing that gets you to become a Navy SEAL can also take you out just as hard, fast and furious. And that's the point you just made, Steve. You're
absolutely right. There are consequences to those choices.
Yes.
And some are unintended and unforeseen, and unfortunately, they're sad endings at times for my brothers and sisters who just decide to put a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Right, exactly. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but let's go to okay, you ready? Let's go to the pool.
Yes, ma'am.
The pool comp. The pool
Okay.
competency. This is what got me. I've heard it before about how treacherous this pool thing is. So set us up here. And I know they prepare you for it, but there's nothing in the world seems that they can prepare you for such a thing. So that's what I'm intrigued with. All right, the pool.
Yeah.
The pool drills.
So, the pool week and all that other stuff. So, Navy SEALs have 1 foot in, on, and under the water. So we have to be really comfortable and confident in there. And to do that, it's like with anything, you have to build the confidence up with small tasks. And one of the small tasks that we start off with for that is just long swims, both in the pool, in the bay, and then open ocean. And then they do an underwater breath hold, which is a 50-meter breath hold. And you dive in, and as you dive in, you do a forward flip to slow your momentum. And you have to swim to one side and back, and you come up. It seems simple enough, but it's a very stressful evolution because you can just feel the energy. It's palpable, and the stress. And some guys do it, some guys don't. So that's the first stepping stone, right? You do the underwater swim, and then you do life-saving. So you do all these building blocks to get up to pool comp. So you do the underwater swim, you do your life-saving, you do your open ocean swims, and then you do underwater knot tying. So you have to go down to 15 feet, you and your instructor, and your choice if you want to tie all 5 knots at once, if you want to do 1 knot at a time, but you have to get down there and do these knot tying things. So it's a breath hold exercise. And so that's one of the other building blocks. And then you move on to your drown proofing, where they teach you how to swim if your hands and feet are tied. In the unfortunate circumstances, if you're captured and your hands and feet are bound and they throw you over the side, you can still survive. And they show you how to do that. And that comes from the Vietnam guys who
oh my
who
God,
prepared for just about everything. So those are the building blocks to get you to pool comp. And so pool comp is a week-long task where they teach you all your open circuit diving. And that's what the scuba tanks you see on TV, and the rebreathers come later. But these tanks are on your back. They're steel tanks, and they're twin 80s is what they are, 80 cubic feet. And then you have these regulators that come over your back and into your mouth. They're like old school Jacques Cousteau type hoses.
I saw them.
Yeah, so, and to be abundantly clear, they don't just throw you in there and expect you to do it. They teach you everything you need to know, step by step.
Right.
And so it's just a competency thing to see how you're going to react and make sure you don't panic, because panic will kill you and others. So it's just having that presence of mind and thinking it through and say, okay, here's the procedures I need to do. And one of the best advice I ever got was from one of my instructors. He goes, look, we're not asking you to do anything we haven't already done. And that really gave me a really good peace of mind and put me in a really calm, zen-like thing. I was like, okay. Now, my pool week was unlike others. I couldn't pass treading water. So one of the things that you have to do in pool week is you do the obvious pool comp stuff where they put you underwater and they simulate a surf zone hit where they toss you around, they pull your mask off, they pull your fins out, they spin you around like you're in a washing machine, they pull your regulator out, they tie the knot, and then you have to figure out, is this something I can fix underwater, or is this something that I have to blow and go? And so those are the procedures. And so I didn't pass it the first time, and they let me do it a second time, which I passed with flying colors, because okay, I'm either going to come up dead or I'm going to come up a winner. So I obviously came up a winner.
Right.
But the one that gave me a hard time was treading water. And that's with the twin tanks, the steel 80s on your back, and just spinning there for 5 minutes with your hands out of water, up in the air like you're, like I surrender type stuff.
Oh my God.
Head. And then you have to swim the length of the pool, which is about 200 yards. So I couldn't get past that 5 minute tread and water thing. It was just my short little stubby legs just wouldn't let me do it. But once, I got rolled into the next class because of that. And then when I went in there to redo it in my new class, I did it easily. I go, what was the problem? It was all mental. I had a mental block that I just could not get through.
Yes. Looking backwards, do you know what that mental block was? Can you pinpoint it?
I want to say I think I was just exhausted because when they rolled me back, I had a 2-week wait period to go in there, but I think I was just emotionally and mentally drained. I had nothing left in the tank. And, that's what buds will do to you. It's like, what do you got left? You got to dig deep and get it. And I don't think I understood that the first go around. So I was very fortunate that they allowed me to stay and dig deeper and find it. And I learned from that mistake. And then now when I'm confronted with those things, I'm like, you know what? You got more in the tank. You can do this.
Oh, okay. So when I watched this documentary, it was done in 2013, right? So at that time they said you get 4 attempts to pass pool comp, right? You get 4 attempts, but every time you have to go, you fail the first time, the second time the stakes are higher, the third time the stakes are higher. At that time when you went through, did you have 4 chances?
You do. You have 2 per class.
Oh.
So, like, I used my first chance and didn't make it, and then I did it the second time and made it. And then when I didn't pass the treading water and I rolled into my next class, they didn't subject me to that because they said, hey, you've already proven that you can do that skill set. So I didn't have to revisit it.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So now going back to where you didn't pass treading water, then at that point, it's all legs, isn't it? Right?
Legs and lungs.
And lungs, yes. Lungs. Right. And then there is the thing that will take us down most of the time is not even the physicality of it. It is the mind. It is getting triggered into a past experience and the negative self-talk of you're in fear of not passing. That will exhaust you so much that even if you're the best frog swimmer on the planet, you could still fail. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's a great point. One I failed to mention is I was on my 7th attempt because they really wanted me to pass.
Yes.
7 times they let me do it, and I couldn't do it. I just was, my brain was frozen, and I was like, I can't do it. And I'm like, man, you've done all these other things, and it was the last 2 weeks before graduation. So it was very demoralizing to be 2 weeks from graduating and then being rolled back into another class and having to wait another month. So, you're absolutely right. I did 7 attempts, failed, went into my new class, did it first time. They looked at me, they go, what's the problem? what was the problem?
Yeah.
And I just laughed. I said it was a mental block.
Yeah.
That was a barrier I was ill-equipped to handle at the time.
Exactly. And it's just now, 30 years ago was even harder because they didn't know what they know now about the brain. It's only in the past 11 years, that we know so much more about the brain to such a degree, more so than in the past 5,000 years. And we know more today than ever in history. And so you had to go against those odds where now they're doing everything they can to get more SEALs passing, right? So you had even harder is the point. From my point of view.
That's a running joke. That's a running joke in the SEAL team. Is the last hard class.
Yeah, right.
My class.
Yeah. But seriously, it's true though, Steve. It's true with the research.
It is. I would love to say that, but I
can't be
abundantly clear and honest.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's why I led with, hey, the process hasn't changed. It's still incredibly violent and incredibly rough.
Yeah.
The violence comes from being pounded in the surf. The surf doesn't care how you feel. Mm-hmm. The ocean doesn't care. So you need to understand and prepare for it accordingly and prep your environment so you can survive.
Yes, exactly. So does the pool comp come before or after the ocean stuff?
It's in the middle of it.
Oh,
So
my
you're
God!
You're still doing 2-mile open ocean swims, and the one we had to do was from Coronado to Imperial Beach, so that's 7-mile swim. And
oh, my God.
you have to swim. You go out on the beach, and then you come out on the IB Pier. So, yeah, I mean, you're still doing all that other stuff. It's not, and that's what I was telling you earlier, is you have all these people that have these regimens for workouts. That's great. But when you have to do a constant grind, a 7-mile swim, a 4-mile timed run, 500 push-ups a day, that's not a regular routine.
No.
So your body will adapt, absolutely. But mentally, it's just not going to be there unless you prepare that as well.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think it's predominantly mental. Like the physical.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Karen. That's why I tell people all the time, what does it take to be Navy SEAL? I go, it's 80% mental. You have to be willing to be like an old friend of mine, retired Master Chief Boink, God rest his soul. He used to say you have to be the willow oak. Know when to stand firm and know when to bend in the wind.
Okay, but from the first podcast we did, and I heard you say it live because you were on the stage speaking, and that's how we met. You said that the only one time you ever wanted to quit was in the ocean, the ocean exercises.
Oh, yeah, that was Hell Week. That was my buddy Grady Morris and I. We were in the Smurf crew, right, which is the guys that are like 5'5" and smaller.
Yeah.
And the class, I think it was Wednesday night. They were around the fire pit down there at State Beach in Coronado, and they wanted to put us out in the water, but before they do that, they have to get the water temperature so they can see how long to keep us in there, right?
Yeah.
So they said, Viola, Morris, get over here. So we ran. They gave us a thermometer. We went out to chest deep water, and we were out there for 10 minutes. All right, come on in. And it was like, I want to say it was 53 or 56 degrees.
Oh, my God.
And this was in November.
Oh.
And so they go, all right, join your class. And we were steps from the fire. I was like, okay, great, I'm going to get warm up. And they go, all right, class 166, hit the surf. And I'm like, mother effer, I am not going back out there. I was just out there. Can I get credit for that? I'm going to quit. And one of my really good friends, Jim Sullivan, goes, no, you're coming with me. I go, okay. And off I went. I mean, when people say that they didn't think about quitting, they're lying.
Yep.
You quit it.
Thank
you.
You
feel like quitting at some point. But like I said, life will tempt you to do it, to think you can do it by yourself, but you can't.
Right.
You need help.
Yes. Amen to that. Okay, so wait a minute. Timeline. So this was before or after the pool? This experience, this situation of wanting to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was week 6, and then the pool week is like week 24.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So in a way it worked. Because if you could get through that, then the pool thing, did it feel at the time like a less of a challenge mentally?
Well, going in there, like I said, they prepare you really well, but then you see all these guys that just, I've seen fear in people's faces a lot of times.
Yeah.
And when you're getting ready to be thrown in the water, people's eyes get the size of $50.
Yeah.
And they're just like huge and bug-eyed. So that kind of mentally messes with you. So you just have to be extraordinarily intentional in what you're doing. You can't be overcome by emotion. You can't be overcome by fear. You just have to master it and say, okay, this is my task. This is my purpose. Here's my desired outcome. So it's just really, like you said, it's all mental.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I almost want to say it's like 95% at a certain level. I mean, look, if you made it up to that point, you know what I'm saying? It's 80 for the rest. And then if you make it to the next top 1%, you know what I'm saying? In the 0.01%, I believe it becomes even more mental. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. It's the stress. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I tell people becoming a Navy SEAL is easy. It's keeping it that's hard.
Bingo.
And they kind of laugh because they don't have the understanding. It's like, yeah, they prepare you. And it's a controlled environment in training. But then once you graduate and you've met all the qualifications, now you got to go out and apply those in the real world. And guess what? The enemy gets a vote. Yeah. The environment gets a vote.
Right.
So that's why we're so good at everything we do is we train and train and train and train. And we do a lot of preparation. and we prep the environment for us to be successful.
Yeah, and even still, they go through everything, tying the knots, untying the knots of the hoses. They go through everything with you. But here's the thing, hence this is how I found it, is the brain science. The thing that takes us down is the fear mechanism, the emotional center, the amygdala, and we don't account for that. We're not accounting for that until now, is the point. Yes, to understand the fear mechanism of the human brain. And that's what you were going through. I firmly believe that at the time. You said 7 times, right? You were treading water, and you had to do it 7 times? The treading of the water.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Yep.
I did it. I failed 6 times and passed on the 7th. And it was a mental block.
Right.
But I want to circle back to what you said about the fear.
Yes.
And that's exactly right. There's a lot of the stuff we do is inherently dangerous. And so you have to hit that manual override button saying, yes, I know it's dangerous, but I've mitigated the risk. I trust my God in my left and my right. I trust my equipment. I have faith in my training, and I'm going to survive this. So it's that mental self-talk, but doing the work and putting in the time to make sure you've accounted for every scenario. And that's what we do is we just run drill after drill after drill. So we train to failure to where you've encountered everything you could possibly imagine, and you're mentally prepared for it. So it's like when you go do it for real life, it's almost like everything's moving in slow motion because you've done it so many times.
Yes, but the whole goal of the training is to know how to instinctively deal with the fear. It's all about the ability to be in extreme conflict and fear and still be able to effectively, survive it, and not just survive it, transcend it, Yeah, and then not just save you, save 1, 2, 3, 4 other people along the way, which is, go ahead.
That's exactly right. Well, you just, like I said, you hit that manual override. It's not a normal thing to run towards gunfire, run towards a battle. It's not a normal thing to put yourself at great heights and jump out in the middle of the night for unmarked DZs. It's not a normal thing to dive in little mini submarines and go around and do stuff. There's a lot, there's a lot going on. Things that go bump in the night, just those little things play tricks on you. But when you have your task and your purpose, and you're well trained, well disciplined, and that all comes to the mental aspect. You have to be able to be in the game mentally.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to talk about your childhood for just a moment. You know me. Were you a kid who loved swimming? Were you a swimmer as a kid? Because Navy SEALs are known for swimming. SEAL, get it? So
yeah. So me and my cousin, he's like my brother. We would go up to the Comel River in San Antonio and San Marcos, Texas, and we would jump off this A-frame bridge. It was about 30 feet up, and we would swim upriver. I never really thought about it until you just mentioned that. I mean, no one swims upriver. You're supposed to swim downriver.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, we'd have tennis shoes on and our little cutoffs, and we would just hang out, and we'd have a mask, and we'd check out the fish, and just swim upriver, have a good time. And then when we got tired, we'd let the river take us back downstream. So I guess it was just something that came natural. It wasn't like I'm going to be an Olympic athlete. It was just something I did, and I thought everybody did that,
Okay, we're on to something here, Steve. Just bear with me. Because,
sure.
So about when did you start doing that? How old were you when you started swimming upriver and jumping off the A-frame bridge? Were you like a little kid?
I think right when my cousin got his driver's license. So when he was 16, I was 14. So we started going up there. So around, 14. And then, when I was doing all that, when I got my first job when I got out of the out of the high school was lifeguard.
Yep.
So I had to do all that stuff.
Okay, so you were already training for the Navy SEAL back then.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think of that.
Right, because that's my whole shtick. This is why I train people. I don't care how old you are. 0 to 19 makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And without even... Go ahead, say it.
I was putting in the work, and I didn't even realize what the fruits of that labor was.
Bingo. But it's all by design. It was implanted subconsciously. And so that's what I firmly believe kept you going, gave you sustainability. 7 times, we all quit after 1 time. I've quit 1 time in the show ring, riding a horse, and I didn't make it. I quit after, no joke, for like 5 years of training. I was just a kid. I was 7, so my first horse show was at 12. I failed. I didn't go back, Steve. Do you see this?
Yeah. I see that.
Yes. It makes a difference. It seriously makes a difference. And now you're telling me you were swimming upstream. It's almost like the same. It's the same as the ocean exercises. I mean, but you're right. Who swims upstream? Nobody. You jump in upstream and you just ride it down. That's what most people do. Yes?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I never thought of it in those terms. That's good connecting the dots.
Uh-huh.
You do that so well. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, here's why. Because I believe the technology that I created in my coaching system could help not just Navy SEALs and any SEAL and like even a real SEAL, from living and not getting caught in the net, because people aren't putting the nets out there, but because they're looking for ways to help. I'm looking for ways to help stop suicide. I'm looking for ways for stop drug addiction and yes, veterans killing themselves, because I know that's your big mission. And Navy SEALs passing. The thing they have to do this because they don't have enough Navy SEALs. That's what this comes down to. The Navy needs more SEALs. But why aren't they not passing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of opportunity to be a SEAL, but very small to graduate. And,
it's the process. And I hear people all the time, oh, it's not what it used to be. I'm like, the only thing that's changed is technology. The ocean hasn't changed.
Right.
The times haven't changed. The standards have not changed. It's still difficult to get through.
Yes. Now, the reason, look, you're an amazing human being. The thing that I was drawn to is you got a gigantic heart. You completely exude being of service, but you're so humble, it's ridiculous. And that you're so, it's like, right? And I know that's great, but that's so alluring. It's like so, you're being so magnanimous is so appealing. And then to understand, like, I think it's a huge deal. And I know it is a huge deal because you went through it, but I guess I'm trying to get across what it takes mentally, emotionally, physically, and to have this mindset. I have to tell you, the same freaking Navy SEAL mindset must be in play to have a quote-unquote Navy SEAL life, to have a life of our dreams, to have a healthy life, to have our bodies working, and to maintain our energy, the youth energy, and the excitement and the passion, and have a happy, successful marriage, and raise kids that aren't having suicidal tendency issues. Do you see how this goes? That's what I believe.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I think anyone can adapt the SEAL mindset. I think a lot of people do. They just don't have a cool acronym or a cool job description to put to it. But it's that mental toughness, that elite mental performance that you have mentioned earlier. And here's the thing is, a lot of people don't understand. It's like when you go to war, it's inherently 3 things. It's intense emotion, luck, and diplomacy, right? So the first one, we have to deal with the emotion. What am I going to do with this? How do I process this? Where do I go? And stuff like that. So a lot of us, we compartmentalize stuff. So that's where, we talked earlier, and thank you for bringing up about the veteran suicide. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, not just for my community, but for the entire military, my brothers and sisters, is just, you have a significant emotional event. How do you process that, and where do you go from there? I have all this training, how to get in and out of the water, how to communicate from long distances, and take down targets and neutralize threats and all that stuff. But what do I do with these emotions that are here? How do I process that? Who do I talk to without being chastised or put into a label category that's not necessarily the case?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's another thing is like, what do you do after you serve in the Navy, in the military? You know, what happens when you come back? You have this mindset, but then when you're put in a different environment, you have to adjust mentally to that, is the point, isn't it?
Yeah, a really good friend of mine, Rob Hanna, we were talking the other day, him and Rob and his partner, Steve Freelander, their business partners. They said, you know, Steve, because they help me out a lot. They're like my mentors for business and entrepreneurial stuff. But they said, your whole career, you have done something with somebody. You always have a swim buddy or a squad of 4 people or a platoon of 12 people. So this is the first time when you get out that you're doing something by yourself. When you transition out of the military, you're by yourself. Yes, they have all these wonderful programs and wonderful infrastructures, but you're by yourself. And if you're not prepared, you can start filling that hole with drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever your drug choice is, and you're trying to fill this hole that can't be filled because you haven't addressed those emotions.
Oh my God, exactly. Exactly right. And it's completely different. And yet, my whole point is it takes that same mindset to now adapt to the civilian life. You know, it took the mental capacity to become a Navy SEAL, sustain it for 30 years, and then you get out and now you have to reinvent or reconfigure, and it still comes down to the mind. It still comes down to the mindset. It still comes down to understanding the fear mechanism, brain science, basic brain function, and the emotional aspect. So,
yes, that's exactly right.
Yes. And the emotions follow our perceptions. I absolutely believe this. And so that getting all those emotions in order and then correct to go into an entrepreneurial endeavor, and all you know your whole life, right, is Navy SEALism, it's a whole new adjustment. So, okay, oh my gosh, so many topics here. So the sustainability, the reason I want to bring it back to your childhood, Steve, the 0 to 19 and closer to the 0 as a child, this is fundamental with all human beings, and to be a contribution back to you and your emotions. The very thing that scared you in childhood and the very thing that created such excitement and ambition and drive and determination, to tap back into that in your childhood is the very thing I believe will help you sustain this new area in your life.
I love you, not just for that saying that, but how you point out things that are incredibly obvious to you, but blinded to me, because I totally agree with that assessment.
Yes.
I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and you get to do it again and again and again, fail 7 times, hopefully not 7, but if it is 7, hey, so be it, bring it on. If anyone can handle 7-time failure, it's you. You know, if anyone can make it through, that's the thing with you. Who cares? Great, you're a Navy SEAL for 1 year. Okay, I'm not impressed by that as much as 30 years and then come out of there and now you're in the prime of your life, really. You know, truth be told.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything I went through is discreetly complicated.
To be able to go into this chapter of your life and have the same mindset and sustainability, the maintenance and sustenance, yes, to tread water, the metaphor, you know, in this phase of your life. Yes. And it's all rooted from childhood. Like all the things that got you through that, through the ocean exercises, through pool comp, is the same thing that you're absolutely is necessary for right now in your life as an entrepreneur and having your own business. You know, your Max Perdiem advisory group, and that's the name of your company, Max Perdiem. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely treading water. That's for sure. I like how you tie that together. That's beautiful. So thank you for making that abundantly clear to me.
Oh, of course. Please. If I could be of service back, absolutely, because it does make a difference over and over again. All my case studies, all my coaching, all my research, and my own life, that to connect back, staying in the game and talking to the people who know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Like you said, you have your mentors. Yes. But anyway, we dice it up. As the brain has the capacity to learn brand newly for the rest of our lives, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take, guess what? Pool comp all over again. It's going to take, oh my God, ocean, get out into the ocean in 56 degrees or whatever, and then come back to the fire, and that's welcome to my life as an entrepreneur. No joke.
Yeah, that's so perfect, Karen. That's absolutely, I never saw it in those terms, but you're absolutely right. It's nothing I haven't already done. It's just in a different capacity now, and I have to equip myself for the terrains that I'm encountering.
Exactly, and just like they taught you everything in training, in Navy SEAL training, yes, they taught you how to tie the hoses, how to untie the hoses. They taught you how to, the mouthpiece on the tanks, because I saw that in the documentary, but you just said it, you confirmed it. They taught you everything, so you knew what you were getting into. But the one thing that you didn't know how to deal with, which we still barely know, is the fear mechanism in the human brain. Steve, if you can train for that, easy peasy. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, if you can bottle that and put it in, if you can get that and put it in a bottle, Karen, you'd be a bazillionaire.
I know. I'm working on it, Steve. I'm working on it. I'm a fear expert for real life, especially for entrepreneurs, right? So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh, yeah, bring it on. Because I believe it's exactly
you brought up
the
a good,
same. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point that I didn't consider is, they teach you how to do one, they show you how to do one, and then they put you in the subjective or the objective test.
Yeah.
And see how you're going to perform under pressure.
Yep.
So that's almost idyllic of what I'm doing right now in terms of, hey, I've never been an entrepreneur before in terms of civilian stuff. I mean, I've had to be a critical thinker and an innovative thinker and make things work on a shoestring budget and low resources in the military. And I thought things would be different on the outside, but they're now that you brought up that example, I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? She's right. It's just the same thing, different format. Same PowerPoint, different format,
Exactly. And I'll give you the answer to the test, to the pool comp.
Okay.
Yeah, here it is. Master the fear part is not panicking under pressure, especially when we're either in fight, flight, or freeze mode. Because the human brain, the minute that's activated in the human brain, it bypasses the prefrontal cortex, which is the reasoning part of the brain, the planning part of the brain. And this is when people quit. This is why the attrition rate is so high, not just in Navy SEALs, but in life. And so we can't see the forest through the trees. And this is when we quit or we get frustrated or overwhelmed. Does that make sense? And then we pivot too fast. We stop 3 feet from gold. And that's... Yeah. And then we get distracted and we don't stay focused. You notice that?
You get discouraged.
Exactly right. And we don't stay steady the course. And if we can bring this to, I'm not going to lie, into Navy SEAL training, but into life training, just real life training, now we're on to something. Now we can have more graduates for life. Oh my God, I'm coming up with these metaphors. I don't know. I'm in the zone, Steve, thanks to you. Whoa.
Oh, well, yeah, I love talking to you because we tend to work these things out, and I didn't even realize what's coming, and you coax those things out of me in such a great way that it's like, oh, I get it. The light bulb goes off. Ding.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you for that. And, it's funny, I had to write my son's resume because he just graduated last Thursday from high school.
Oh,
and I sat down and I wrote everything out for him. 4 years of ROTC, 4 years of football, 3 years of volleyball, did track, did cheerleading for the stunt team, and was honors Spanish, honors 2 other classes. And I wrote it all out. And he started his own T-shirt business. right? He was selling T-shirts for stuff, and he started his own YouTube channel. So when I wrote it all out for him, he was like, "Whoa, Dad, I did all that?" I go, "Yeah." He was so busy in the trenches doing his job of, making grades and going to school. When he stepped back and saw the fruits of his labor, it's really good. And to tie that into what you're saying, a lot of people will prepare, but they don't handle the failure very well, and so they just call it quits. And I would submit that if you have like a mission statement, hey, here's why I do what I do, here's my desired outcome. When you do fail, you go back and you look at that. Yep. And we're not saying anything people don't already know, but just be realistic. It's okay to fail. Just don't take it to where you don't learn from it. Say, what did I learn from that failure so I can revisit it and accomplish it? And I would say that's how we do it in the SEALs, because you've heard me say it a million times, both in person and in different talks, is my life is replete with failure. And it's just a matter of saying, okay, what did I learn? All right, let me apply that to the next go, and this is going to be successful. And then you get your 100% guarantee of success further down the road. You just have to be mentally prepared for things, because that's the greatest weapon we teach guys. It's your mind.
Yes.
It's nothing other than preparing yourself for how things you'd like things to be, and then going after it. You have to do the work. Yeah. And like you said, and I didn't think about it, is swimming upstream with my cousin. I was doing. Didn't even realize what the fruits that was going to bear later on down the road.
Yeah, and when times get tough, when you come back to that, that's what will actually help you continue to keep going. And the thing, I almost want to say there's a direct correlation to when you couldn't tread water, something got triggered, and I believe that's what happened. What was holding you back is the trigger in your mind that was unconscious to you. Because if anyone could do the tread water, that's why they're like, when you did pass, what was the problem? It was 100% something in your mind, if that makes any sense, right?
No, it makes perfect sense. And it was, and trust me, I've reflected on that often, and how had I done that and graduated my class, how my career, my life, and everything probably would have been completely different than it is now. So it wasn't happenstance. I think it was the right thing for me, and I don't prescribe failure as the right thing for anybody, but that's how you learn. You get pruned like a bonsai tree to grow a certain way and show different examples of what not to do and what to do to make yourself successful. But I want to go back to something you said.
Yes.
I think, and thank you for your kind words about my humility. I guess I don't want to get cocky. Right. Well, yeah, I've done that, because it's funny. I've had a couple friends of mine where I was very dead set in a certain way, and they said, "Hey, you're unhireable," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I don't think you really know me then." But these were trusted advisors, and I sat back and I said, "Well, wait a minute, maybe I am being a little bit stubborn and being hard-headed." And that had got me through certain circumstances. But this is unlike anything I've ever done. I've spent my entire adult life institutionalized, if you will, in the military and in the SEAL teams, and it's like, okay, I've people that have been out here doing this, like you, who guide me in ways that I never even thought of, help me significantly improve my game.
Yeah. So just so I heard you correctly, you had advisors and mentors telling you you are not hireable. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Because yeah, exactly. I was unhireable, uncoachable. And I was like, my ego got in the way. And I was like, okay, now let's go back to the pool comp and the treading water. You failed there, and you were the ways that you were going about it, you failed. So you had to fall back, reassess, and then re-engage.
Yes.
Be successful. And that's what they were telling me, and it was a harsh truth that my ego was like, who do you think you are? They're my friends.
Right.
They're trying to help me. And I had to check that and say, you know what, they're right. I'm doing it wrong. I need to be a little bit more willow oak like.
Yes. And bend in the wind. Is that right?
Yep.
Oh my God, beautiful.
Exactly.
So I know, we wanted to stop at a certain time. If you have a few minutes, I want to just make sure that we stay on time here for you. But I would like to talk about your new business, in terms of, tell us about, what your business, your intentions for your business are, and share it with us.
So it's a little, I want to say discreetly complicated, but it's going about in harmonic proportions.
Beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you. I'm learning as I go. So Max Perdiem's why is to help people perform with excellence.
Beautiful.
And it's a broad statement, but what I do is I advise people. What's the difference between that and a consultant? Is I want to develop a relationship with you, not just tell you what's wrong. I want to be able to create a relationship and see you do well and be there for you when you want to do stuff. With that, there's education and training, both for medical training, like stop the bleed, how to put a tourniquet on, leadership development for small special teams, and then education and training in those capacities, and then just direct support. If people need, like me, to go be a medic or be a security guy, or to say, here's how I can directly support you. So with that comes being an advisor. I got a few irons in the fire that I'm looking at, and it's to help veterans stop the suicide that we're seeing.
Yes.
And it's everything from stem cell to plant-based medicine to magnetic brain realignment to just research on the brain and say, okay, why do we do this? Why do people think it's the next right step to kill themselves? Because I've talked to a few guys that were going to start a pistol, and when I asked them, I said, hey, what were you thinking at that time? They go, it was just the right thing to do. I was over it. I'm going to see what's on the other side. And for some reason, somebody said, nope, this isn't your time. Let's pull back. And I'm thankful that they reconsidered and they didn't follow through on it. But that's my mission, is I just want to stop the veteran suicide for my brothers and sisters and figure out what's going on in the brain and how we can help minimize, reduce, and get rid of altogether that thing. I was just up in San Francisco yesterday. I had the privilege of talking with a Nobel Peace Prize doctor, researcher on all brain therapy stuff and how to map it and how to get brain samples to say, okay, here's the next right step. Here's a drug that can help these people not have those suicidal tendencies or ideations. And his whole mission is to get out of business. He wants people to stop killing themselves, and that's his mission. So I can easily partner with them.
Yes, absolutely. And you're speaking my language, as we know. This is my jam, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So I love it, and I totally and wholeheartedly support you on this mission. And my goal is to get them before they even become the veteran, if they choose to be a veteran, choose to be in the military, and then, have a very happy, healthy, sustainable civilian life afterwards, right? So it's all the way before, during, and after. And it's amazing, and just love everything that you're doing, and everything that you stand for is mind-blowing. So for people to get in touch with you, Max, your hashtag is #MaxPerdiem1. That's Max Perdiem, the number 1, but it's just, Max Perdiem1. And then Max Perdiem, you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn, and you're on Instagram. And that's how people can get a hold of you. Yes, to talk with you more, follow you, connect with you. And I'm sure if anyone has any questions, you'd be more than happy to answer them and connect with them, out of this podcast. Because, oh my God, I have so many more questions. Can we go to another episode, Steve?
Absolutely. Whatever you want, Karen. I love talking to you. You always draw out stuff that I didn't even think of. So, yeah, whatever you need, I'm here to...
Well, yes, and there's something in it for you. I'd love to shed light more on this fear thing. That is my specialty, is unconscious fear, the very thing that they're having trouble with.
You're so awesome. I love how you hit it head on. That's fantastic. I love how you work, and I love how you have a different perspective. that I hadn't considered, and I'm sure others haven't either. Mm-hmm. So thank you for what you do and helping me and helping others. And I know you're just being you, which makes it even more fun and more awesome. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor, and it goes both ways, because the very thing, feel free to wrap it up, Steve. I'm going to let you just, wrap it up for today. The big message, a small message. What are the words of wisdom that you have to share with us in completing for today? And you're coming back.
Oh, well, thank you for the invite. That means I did good, right? When they
oh my God, please. I have like a million more great questions. We could go on for days.
Well, likewise.
Yeah.
No, I love how you just draw things out of me. That's awesome. Words of wisdom, I would just say, hey, if you're thinking about killing yourself, please talk to somebody before you do it. And just say, hey, I'm not in a right way, and let's get you right. Because I don't want people doing a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And listen to Karen and her podcast, because I listen to them. They're fantastic. And thank you again for the opportunity, and looking forward for part 2 or 3 or just another engagement with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so all the suicide hotline stuff is posted with my description of my podcast. I am a survivor, double survivor of suicide, meaning my own attempt in suicide, and then my sister, slow suicide. I know a lot about suicide, more so than I care to admit. However, if you ever just want to know what it's like and has somebody that you need to relate to and with, that's me. Listen to my podcast. I talk about my suicidal tendencies, the depression. There are a lot of us out here who can relate to you, and at least give it a shot to kind of dig deeper. Talk to the people who know. Talk to the people who have been in your shoes, who have failed miserably at killing myself. That's me. We are out here. There's lots and lots of support. What I'm never going to tell you what to do or what not to do, but the thing that saved me from killing myself was somebody who said something to me, held me accountable. And the truest reason why I didn't succeed at suicide is because so many people related to my story, and their own wanting to take their own life at some level along their own life's journey, meaning even if they just like drove off, the cliff, that would have been okay. They didn't blatantly want to shoot themselves in the head. That's what ultimately had me choose to stay. Is the person who could relate to me, the person who could say, oh yeah, I tried to kill myself. And that's what I promise makes the difference. And we are here. I am here, Karen Lovely at Gmail. Message me. And Steve, I can't thank you enough. The suicide rate for veterans is so off the charts. And so I'm with you and supporting your efforts, and I'm whatever I can do to help, because it's all the same thing. So we're going to definitely talk more and support you on this. And yeah, we're just going to have a regular podcast to address this, since the suicide thing is my jam. So more power to you. Yeah. And whatever I can do to help, I'm here.
Thank you, Karen.
You're so welcome. Thank you all for listening. Max Perdiem 1, hashtag Max Perdiem 1, Steve, Viola. Thank you so much. And we'll do this again. Thank you all for listening. Steve, you are so beyond magnificent. I'm out of words. That's all I can say.
Thank you. You're wonderful.
Thank you.